Today we chase some iconic Aussie sport fish. We head offshore to learn the art of fishing small soft plastics for snapper before hitting the floodplains of the Northern Territory in search of Barra. A large part of catching snapper offshore is working out where and when to best catch them. In many cases, the ocean gives us some of our best clues. For instance, the migration of whales very often tells us what those fish are about to do. As those big, beautiful animals start heading north in their annual migration, it usually means the snapper are getting ready to spawn as winter comes along. Then, as those whales complete their migration and head back south past your doorstep, it usually means the snapper are about to embark on their big springtime feed. This is a great time to start finding them close inshore on those reefs. Nothing better than first drop on a spring morning. Not sure what's down there. Second later, thump, rod loads, drags a whaling. I'm fishing a stone's throw from the centre of the Gold Coast this morning. Southeast corner of Queensland. Bit of shallow reef country. And the thing that happens as that water starts to warm as you head into spring and the early summer months, that some of our bigger bumpy-headed snapper start moving in close. A lot of people think that winter time's when we get a really good fish. A lot of the snapper guys in the know, and I tend to believe them now, reckon that spring and early summer is when the big guys come out of that spawning mode, getting close to feed. There's just such an abundance of food supply in the shallow reefs. There's lots of whiting and crab, and they come in to feed up after their spawning mayhem. And if you're in the right spot, and you present well, bait or plastic, you can be in for some great fishing. Fishing pretty light today. I've got a 10-pound braid, 15-pound leader, little 4 to 7 kilo stick. Fish is waking up, I think he's seen the boat. Little Fluga arbor reel, Fluga Patriarch stick. It's really nice light stuff. It means you can feel everything that's going on. And all I did to catch that fish was fishing in 30 metres of water. Some nice gravelly reef and a bit of bommy comes up, and I'm casting ahead of the boat in a drift and just letting a plastic slowly drift down, and in case of just slowly mending line to watch what's going on. And the bite can be as simple as a bump and a slow load up of weight. It's a lot like bait fishing in that regard. It's a case of just let them take the weight up before you hit them with the rod, and then hold on. Okay, should have some colour for you fairly soon. So you really let your rod do a lot of the work. Beauty of fishing light rods are soft tips is that they absorb a lot of fish bumping and head shaking, which means you don't tend to pull hooks as much. So that being the case, don't point your rod tip at a fish too much, really let your rod do the work. I spent a lot of time chasing snapper around the southeast corner, and there's nothing better than watching these big pink guys come up. Oh, bit of weight in that one. First fish of the morning. Oh, have a look at that. Little Z-Man 4-inch pink grub tucked away. Smell a snapper in the morning. I don't get sick of it. They are beautiful fish. You can see why so many people get addicted to fishing these, especially on plastics. They're such a majestic fish to look at. They fight so well. They obviously taste really good. And they're very aggressive when it comes to eating plastics and baits. Not sick of catching these guys yet. That's awesome. To have that line feeding out of your hands and suddenly it gets ripped out, starts travelling off at a rate of knots. I reckon I fish with a lot of snapper guys, and I reckon the reason they keep doing it is that addictive quality to have line ripped out of your hands as you're feeding a plastic down through the water column. Doesn't matter how big the fish is, it's just that exciting to suddenly get kicked into gear in that way. Makes you just keep coming back more and more for that sort of stuff. He's not a big fish, but tell you what, a bite, it can be a 1 kilo fish or a 10 kilo fish. They all bite the same way. They just rip that line off the reel when it's in free fall, and you've got to be tuned into it, because if you're not, you can miss a lot of fish. You can see that little Z-Man plastic. They're a very durable plastic. They've also got a really soft quality, which a lot of guys fishing for a range of species are finding is very popular. The fish can eat it and not suspect there's anything wrong. And the nice thing about using curled tails, I'm a big fan of them, that they tend to, they slow the drift in the water. They also add that little motile vibration into the water, which attracts a lot of attention. And sometimes a trick to catching some good fish on any given day is to just present more slowly. Sometimes on your local jetty you can see the difference between throwing bread and bits of burley out and the fish get stuck into it. At the moment you put a big sinker on a bait and drop it through it, they'll have nothing to do with it. It's exactly the same approach. By getting it drifting nice and slowly through the water column, doesn't matter what fish you're fishing for, you can definitely fool fish, and very often the better fish. That's a nice thing about using those curl tail grubs, getting back in the water. See ya! I'm fishing with the Z-Man plastics today, and I've picked a nice small offering. I think sometimes, when the fish are really aggressive, they'll eat whatever, but sometimes when you're not too sure if they might be a bit fussy, I like going for a really small bite-sized plastic. It just sometimes makes it really easy for a fish to sip it in as it cruises past them. And the idea we're doing here is casting ahead of the boat with a drift. I'm fishing a 3/8 ounce TT jig head to get it just drifting nice and slowly through the water column. Just mending my line as I go and watching to see if something picks it up on the drift. The idea being I'll cast ahead of the boat and I'll fish it right back behind me, and if I don't get anything on that first drift, cast again, and if I then move away from the ground, simply go back and do it all again. The line's coming back behind me now. I want to try and get it as close to bottom as I can. Beauty of using braided line is that you've got such good contact with the plastic. You can feel the moment the fish picks it up, the moment the lure hits the bottom, and you can start jigging it. Good idea sometimes to use nice visible braids. I'm using a code red braid at the moment. It's a spider wire line, but you can also use some of the yellows and greens, if particularly in the low light conditions where you want to see that line a bit better. Yep. A little squirry. Okay, so when you're drifting, because there's so much moving, you're moving, there's often a current moving, your jig head's moving through the water. It takes a little while to get the hang of. And I speak to a lot of anglers that start fishing with drifting and they give it away after a couple of goes because they just can't quite get their head around what's going on and they're not catching fish. It's one of those things where you just really got to stick at it and practice. And start just getting good at knowing what weight jig head will get you to what depth in the water with different current and wind conditions. And after a while, if you do your homework and you get used to it, the moment you start getting those bites and that first few hookups, you're away. And it's a whole new ball game of fishing that does get addictive. Beware, wives and partners, you're going to be up for some money, but you can catch a whole lot of fish in a very exciting way. It's a little lesson in that. When you're snapper fishing and you suddenly find that fish are starting to get hooked around the mouth, so you're almost foul hooking them, typically means that they're going into that slightly shut down mode, which they often do around the tide. Snapper will very often feed just as the tide starts to build and just before it starts to die out. And in those in-between stages when it's flowing hard, you can still catch them, but you often find they're a little bit more finicky. So they'll bump things out of their way and they'll eat the odd bit here and there, and you have to present really well to catch them. So I tend to find that when I do start hooking fish around the mouth, straight away it signals to me, A, they're in that mode where they're not that keen. So what I start doing is I go to smaller plastics and I often start downsizing my leaders. So by that I mean sometimes when I'm snapper fishing I'll go down to 10, 12 and very occasionally go down to 8 pound leaders. And what it does is it just allows you to present that little bit more naturally, and it can sometimes undo those finicky fish. Big part of catching any fish is finding them, and today I'm chasing snapper on the drift, and the first thing I've done is got out there to try and find the structure and then also signs of fish, either snapper arching or signs of bait that they might be feeding on. Having found that, I'm looking around and I'm seeing that which way the wind's going to push me and also which way the current might push me. And then I'm trying to set up strategic drifts so that I get the best line straight to that area and I can keep presenting my plastic to those fish. Having a sounder that shows you track lines is a real benefit when you are doing this stuff, because it does show you straight away where you're traveling in relation to where those fish are. And then if, say, you miss it on the first drift, it means you can come back, see where you've drifted and alter that line to get the next drift right. It just means that you're optimizing where you're putting that lure at any given time. Oh, oh, how good's that on the drop? That fish has just smashed that. Oh, come on, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Oh, keep getting up, come on. Come on, come on, get up, get up. Oh, it's one of those moments I just started taking in the scenery, looking somewhere else. As this plastic was sinking, it just got slammed. Just about pulled the rod out of my hand. How good's that? Oh. Up off the bottom now, which is good. Fishing sort of light, you know, I'm fishing 15-pound leader. You always get a bit nervy when they start heading for ground, but just got to hold your nerve and just keep that rod steady and back yourself to slowly get them up off the bottom. Whew. Something else happened there too. The sun's got up a bit and the light obviously has changed in the water. And I was fishing a bit of a more brightly coloured plastic this morning just to give it more profile. I've gone to a more natural colour now. It's more of a bait fish green. Same sort of plastic, a little grub, a little Z-Man grub. Fish on a 1/2 ounce jig head. And the colour change seems to have worked. We get caught up a lot in colours sometimes. I just like having something really bright in there to give you that contrast and lower light. And then also a really nice natural bait fish colour, which can sometimes undo good fish when they just get a little bit subtle on the bite. This is a really nice red, look at this. Oh, look at this. Lovely. Oh, there we go, a little natural bait fish colour grub. Little 1/2 ounce jig head. This is a nice average size springtime or early summertime snapper in southeast Queensland. If you get your plastics right or your bait fishing right, you're well on the money for catching some good fish like this. And in the background there you can hear some whales thumping around on their way back south, and it's usually key time when those whales start heading back home. You know, it's time to start getting into some of those shallow waters, those 30 to 10 metre water depths, and start hunting snapper like this. You get it right, there's a whole lot of fun to be had. One little thing when you're fishing plastics for snapper, up, sometimes you hook other big ooglies. Bit of a predator that shares the waters with the snapper in these parts is the old yellowtail king. The floodplains of the Northern Territory are a truly special place. Bill Klassen joins a good mate of his and explores the scenic wetlands while casting lure and fly for Barramundi.
Yeah, we'll head out in the floodplains and see what we can pick up. Some nice barra out there. Quite regularly we can get up around the 60 centimetre mark to 70, sometimes it'll be the bigger ones. A lot of smaller stuff around the 40s. Yeah, so it's just a lot of good fun out there. The floodplain will run depending on the wet seasons. We've had a bit of late wet this year, which has been great, so we've still got plenty of water. So you're looking anywhere from February through until maybe May, June. May will be your best on it because then your weather starts getting a bit cooler anyway for the Barra. Yeah, well the airboats, as you can see, they're an aluminium hull. They're like a punt design, and we have a Chevy 502 motor on the back of them, and they're driven by propellers. And they only go forward, you don't have a reverse or a brake on them, so it's all up to the fins at the back to move your air through and judge which way you're going. And they're great because you can go through water, just a few inches of water, 50 mil of water, and you can get through those areas, and they'll cut across all the thrush grass out there as well. So you can get into some great spots where no boat would actually ever get into. So I couldn't imagine a propeller trying to go through any of that water out there.
Here we are out on the Swim Creek floodplain, which is part of the Mary River system. We're down here with Barramundi Plains Lodge and Andrew, our mate, driving the airboat for us. This area is very rich with fish life. As you can see, there's fish, tarpon and bait fish busting in the background. We're chasing some small freshwater barra today. Well, here's the Barramundi. Probably not as big as we would have liked. Beautiful little specimen of a Barramundi. You can see the dark coloration in it. That's pretty common with the freshwater fish that spend all their life in freshwater. This little fish, he'd be under a year old. Probably more like 4 months, 5 months old. And what he'll do is he'll stay up here in this freshwater environment where there's lots of food. And as he gets older and bigger and gets a bit more sexually mature, we'll head down to the river mouth to spawn. He's a bit bigger, but still wouldn't go the legal size. I've got that fella on the little black gurgler. See the weed guards there? Pretty much a necessity in this sort of country. The Barra are sitting right back in the weeds. This is the only way you can get them in there without snagging up every cast. That one did the trick. He come up and smashed it off the top. Once again, a nice little Barra, but he's darker fish. He's probably spent his whole life up in the fresh, gorging on this just plethora of bait up here. Get him back in the water and Lily's on.
Now mate, we've got up here in this airboat. Does that mean you can't access in an ordinary craft is a bit difficult?
Yeah, you just wouldn't be able to get here in a normal boat, Bill.
Okay.
I mean, that's the beauty of the airboat. If this spot's not firing, we can shoot across the floodplain and try another spot. You know, that tree line you can see further down. That's the main barrage at the top of Swim Creek. Yeah, the pastoralists have put them in there to keep the fresh water up here, maintain the lush sort of grasses for the livestock. You've got them all these little channels running in here. It's a prime ambush spot, all the bait's flowing in. Yeah, if I was a Barra, I'd be sitting right here waiting for a feed.
And we're trying some surface lures. I've got a frog on.
Yeah, I've got a gurgler on the fly rod.
On the fly rod.
We can hear a few little fish.
There we go.
There you go.
Look at that.
A few little fish just popping around on the surface like that. You know, they're not huge fish, but it's visual with the surface lures, and I think that's one of the real draw cards to this style of fishing. You see the fish come up and eat your lure, which is, I reckon, one of the best parts about fishing. We're getting into the smaller fish up here at the moment. We've caught quite a few. But yeah, we'll go and check out Andrew's other secret spot. See the way that's rigged? It's rigged so it's going to ride weedless, get through all these reeds and grass that we're fishing in here. The Barra right in amongst it, so if you're not getting your lure in there, you're not getting any strikes. So I've switched to this weedless style lure. Pretty effective. The hook point isn't exposed. It rides hook point up, so most of the time it's going to ride over any obstacles, but the hook point's also flat up against the body of the plastic. But when the Barra does hit it, the plastic squashes away and the hook penetrates its mouth. You don't get as good a hook up rate, but when the fish are hungry, they tend to hook themselves. Oh, goody. You got another little one, Bill? What did you get this one on, mate?
Storm soft plastic.
Rigged weedless again?
Oh, actually, been getting so many hits, actually exposed the hook point.
Yep.
So, and just keeping it a bit out of the weed. Yeah, you can grab it out.
It often pays with these little fish like this because they're so feisty and they have got a lot of spikes on them. Just to get a pair of lip grips on them straight away just saves a lot of pain later. Well, we've changed spots here. We've come to Andrew's secret spot number 3. First cast, Bill's got a fish, so things are looking up. The actual water levels are pretty high. Still, we've had a late wet season. Water's still right up over the floodplains. I mean, and so are a lot of the fish, so they haven't actually dropped back down into these channels as yet.
They're certainly up that alley, aren't they?
Barramundi alley.
Yeah. Peas in a pod, mate. The floodplain Barra.
Yeah.
Golden, 40 centimetres.
Yeah, probably a bit under.
Bit
maybe
under?
35. These guys will probably spend the next year up here fattening up, Bill, and then they'll head out to sea, follow their sexual urges. Slightly better one on here, Bill. Well, he won't go the legal 55 centimetre mark, but he's better than the other little schoolies we've been getting. He's actually a little bit silvery compared to the bronze models we've been getting earlier on this morning. We'll just ease him into the boat. Well, thanks, Andrew, and we've had a great morning's fishing. We've 3 hours, we've probably caught over 30 fish. It's probably one of the better ones we've tangled with today. Just a great place to be, mate.